Hey everybody, it is Professor Parrish, and we are on week 14 of our English 122 class. So, I do want to go over the assignments for this week. There are 2 assignments for this week, although one is a fairly larger assignment than normal. You guys have known it's been on the agenda for a long time, but I do want to go over it now. As for the assignments, you'll notice that we only have 3 weeks left after this. It's crazy, right? So let's go ahead and look at the module guide for this week. So obviously you have the writing about literature section in our textbook that is from pages 1761 to 1781. As far as that goes, I am going to talk about it in the PowerPoint that I'm going to go over here in just a little bit. But the other assignments are the discussion forum for this week, as well as the first part of the research project. There are 2 parts, and we're going to be doing the first one this week. This first part should be 4 to 5 pages long, not including the works cited page, and use MLA format. So let's talk about these assignments. Our discussion forum this week is just asking about your research project. It's very simple. It's just saying, what text are you choosing to write about? Why did you choose that one? What about that text is the most memorable or interesting to you, right? And then you guys just talk about, you weigh in on the texts that have been chosen and what about your peers' text seems most interesting to you if you've checked them out. So just a basic discussion forum asking about your prep towards the research project this week. As far as the research project, this is the Dropbox for it. As far as the guidelines, here is the resources that talk about our first research project assignment. So creativity is taking something that's cliche and familiar and exploring it in totally unexpected ways and making it stand like it's in a new pair of shoes by Charles Duhigg. So I kind of like that explanation that you're taking something that was old and making it your own. So your task is to construct this 4 to 5 page paper that is going to explain a text that we have discussed in class, identifying the themes, showing how the themes appear through literary conventions, and using MLA format. And you'll have a works cited page that you include as well. Additional sources you don't have to worry about at this stage. Just at this point, you should just be formatting it and citing the text that you choose, right? So if you chose A Rose for Emily, you would cite, the author, and then Rose for Emily, the textbook, the publishers, and the year, right? Just how we've done it in the past. So choose a piece you like. That's the big thing. I always have students ask about what should I write about? What will get me an A? And my answer is if you're writing about a story that you enjoyed, you're going to get an A. If you have to pick a story that you didn't like, then it's going to be a struggle to write because you're not going to be invested in it. So to me, it doesn't matter which of the texts we've read that you pick. It just matters that it's one that you find interesting. Reread the text. A lot of times, if you read it back in week 1, you may have forgotten some key details. So go back and reread that text. Make sure that your thesis, the main point of your paper is clear from the get-go and cite specific information. So what I'm grading on is obviously the ideas that you have, your thesis, the development, how effective it is, your organization, your introduction, how you arranged your ideas, your transitions, your conclusion, the tone, the word choice, the knowledge level you exhibit, the engagement you show, that you know the text. You're not just being general, you're getting some specifics in there. And then the grammar, formatting, and citations. So this first part is worth 100 points, like a normal paper would be for this class. May I reuse a text I've analyzed before, like for the fiction part? Yes. If you really liked that topic, you can reuse it. However, I don't want to see a previous paper. If you try to recycle your paper from the first part of class, you're going to get a big fat goose egg and a 0, and I'm going to say you just copied and pasted the same paper. You have to reanalyze it. You have to look at it through a different context. So yes, if you really enjoyed talking about A Rose for Emily, you can still talk about it. But maybe you've exhausted yourself and you want to try something new. Just don't reuse the same paper. I will be checking. So the other thing is, can I analyze more than one element? Sure. But with that, note that limits can give you focus. I would not pick more than 1 or 2 elements because you should be focused in this paper. It also is your friend. It makes writing easier and faster if you just stick to a specific criteria and don't try to be broad. Once you start being broad, it can get confusing on what to keep, what to throw away. So just be safe with it. And then depth will be rewarded. A lot of times students, if they're not sure what elements to analyze, they're like, well, I'll just analyze all of them. But then they only just cover the surface, and it just feels like a glossed over book report, which is not a good paper. It doesn't feel like it's in depth. It doesn't feel substantial. Whereas somebody that took one or two elements and really dug deep to get some really cool examples has a much better paper constructed than that person that just used the broad scope, right? Can I analyze a text we haven't read? You can. If you want to do that in addition to analyzing a text we have read, sure, but you may want to compare them. That could work. So yeah, if you take A Rose for Emily and compare it to a story that you know that's outside of the textbook, you can totally do that. You can do a compare and contrast. I think that would be fine. Just make sure that one of those stories is one that we have analyzed in class. Should I use a research question? That's an option. When you do a research question, that means that your paper is answering a specific question. So, for example, how does a good man is hard to find foreshadow wokeness? That could be a question. How does A Rose for Emily demonstrate the harshness of the rural South? That's a research question. How does Dr. Faustus caution against making a deal with the devil? That's a research question. So all a research question is that you take that question and make it your thesis of your paper. It is the main point, and you craft your paper around that. That's really what it's about, right? And you can do that. Sometimes students really like that because it gives you a question to answer. It makes it more interesting and engaging. So sure. What if I don't have 4 to 5 pages? Make sure you got a really good introduction, right? You want to have an intro that explains your story, the context, really dives into your thesis, into your points. I mean, that introduction can be really, really robust and detailed, right? You can add source material from the text. Don't quote everything, obviously, but you can add examples that are in your own words. You can do that. Check for paragraph breaks. Like if you have a page that's just one paragraph, there is a paragraph break in there somewhere. Double check that. And then add your own analysis, like your own opinion, being like, looking at this, we can see, and then add some more information to it, right? You definitely can make this 4 to 5 pages. My thesis for grad school is 107 pages, and it was about how farmers use media. You can do it. I promise you. What if I don't know about what to write about? Well, step 1 is to choose a text. That's the easiest part. And then step 2 is kind of like a choose your own adventure. You can identify the most interesting things about the text. You can try free writing. Sometimes that we do that in English 121. You can talk to a friend, and you can email me with the name of your text. So if you're like really stumped, you can email me and ask me about it, right? But I know from past experience with other students in this class, you can write this amount of text. A lot of students get discouraged, like 4 to 5 pages, there's no way. Yes way, you definitely can do it. I've taught this class for 10 years or more. I have seen it happen, so I know you can do it. And I have faith in you. You guys are a smart bunch. I know you guys are going to come up with some really cool examples and cool papers to work on. So then that leaves our other presentation, which is about writing about literature, which is the section from 1761 to 1781 in our book. And about that, it talks about active reading, which is interacting directly with the work itself, exploring the meaning, the author's intentions, your own reaction. It often involves marking and annotating the text, and it leads to a more critical reading, which, for the record, for your analysis you have to do this week, these are all things you can do in your paper. You can explore the paper's meaning, the text's author's intention, your own reaction to it. These are all things you can write about to help get to that 4 or 5 pages. Why read actively? Well, it makes you enjoy it a lot more when you can kind of like make these comparisons and draw these conclusions. It makes you enjoy it to a much greater extent. It also helps you to make valuable connections that maybe the authors are wanting you to do. So like if the author wants you to realize something important, you can actually do that. And it helps you to maybe realize a big statement they're trying to make overarching in the story. And it helps to generate new ideas. So when you read actively, you read closely, take your time. You can reread as you need. Knowing the ending may make it more meaningful the second time. If you see it coming, it may help you to kind of like reanalyze it and be like, oh wow, I didn't realize that. Underline or bracket effective passages. Note connections to other materials and your own experiences. And comment about whether you disagree or agree. These are all things that you can do to help write your paper as well. So in planning your essay, give yourself time. Don't wait until Sunday to write this. I know that that's a joke and a lot of students go, oh, that's me, but please don't do that. Procrastination can be your biggest enemy in a paper like this. Some people perform well under stress, but stress is not something you want to have to rely on, because what happens if things go wrong? What if you get sick Sunday? What if you have a family emergency? What if your technology fails? You don't want to be in a situation where you get a 0 on an assignment because you waited until the last minute to do it. So give yourself time. Start on it this week, even if it's just plotting it out, even if it's just putting it all together. Give yourself time. Choose something you care about. Know what you want to tell your audience about this paper. Consider your audience. I mean, you're writing it for me, so consider who you're writing it to, and then narrow your topic down. So an effective thesis is one that is direct, clear, specific, and precise. It's debatable. The author, you're talking about their opinion. It's more specific than the subject, what I'm writing about. And it is not a definition fact or anything that somebody else says is not your thesis. A thesis needs to come from you. It's something that you believe about the text in question. So we have forms of proof, which are called ethos, logos, and pathos. And we talk about them in English 121, but we'll kind of touch base on them here. So ethos are appeals to credibility. So regardless of what you think about vaccines, things like that, Fauci is considered to have ethos because of their experience in the field, their many, many years of experience. So that is ethos. Ethos is a speaker that can be trusted. Their tone is reasonable, they acknowledge other views, they're open-minded, they are competent, and they want what is best for the audience. Ethos in writing explains your credibility. It omits personal insults and acknowledges both sides. I mean, if you're open-minded and acknowledge what both sides have to offer, it makes yourself be much more appealing as an author. It makes yourself more accessible to multiple audiences that if you insult them or aren't open-minded, you may lose those people that could offer you some valuable feedback or really appreciate your story, right? So if I like Mr. Rogers there, Mr. Rogers is a great example of ethos, right? Pathos appeals to emotion. If you know Robin Williams, the comedian, he was the genie in the animated Aladdin. He was in Hook. He was in so many different films, but he uses laughter and comedy to appeal to his audience. And pathos aims for the heart. It includes any emotion, not just humor, but sadness, nostalgia, excitement. It can have a great force and often is accomplished through stories. When people give personal testimonies about things that have happened to them, it's personal, it's endearing, it's emotional. Those are all examples of pathos. And pathos can either work really well towards you or they can work to your detriment. Not everybody has the same sense of humor. Not everybody gets sad at the same things. So you have to be careful with how you use pathos, but if you use it well, it can be a very valuable tool. It focuses on connecting with the readers themselves. It's about observing and describing using emotion, and you use vivid language and stories. We talked about poetry using vivid language. That is a very pathos way of writing. It's tapping into that emotionality. The exact opposite of pathos is logos, in which you demonstrate proof or credibility. So it hinges on evidence, facts, reasoning, expert opinions and from the field, right? Logos in writing is writing clearly, organizing ideas, including evidence, offering analysis, and editing theses as needed. So I think of Data from Star Trek. He's clearly he's an android, but he's extremely intelligent, and he does things not from an emotional standpoint, but from a logistical standpoint. Everything is backed by factual information. And so when you revise, make sure that your thesis is clear, that you confirm that the evidence supports your thesis, you check whether your argument makes sense, you check for transitions, check for those topic sentences, and spend time on the introduction. So my final recommendations are that you get feedback, you make sure your thesis is clear and specific. Anything that seems unnecessary, you chop it out, cut it out, and the simplest way to say it is usually the best. A lot of students try to be really verbose and complicated in their sentences. You don't have to do that. Just simple and clear is the way to go. And give yourself time to do this. Like I said, don't wait till Sunday. Start on it now and get it done. And that way you don't have to worry about it. You can spend your Sundays doing whatever you want, except for English. So that is for this week. If you have any questions about the research project, part 1, anything about the discussion forum, please let me know. But I want to go ahead and let you all know that this assignment is due. Both of them are due Sunday. Just please take your time, do your best, and let me know if you have any questions. In the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I will be back really soon to talk to you all with week 15 of English 122. Bye.